Welcome to NFL Nexus. Today we are diving headfirst into one of the most fascinating what-if scenarios in the entire league, the Indianapolis Colts 2026 offseason. I mean, just picture it for a second. You start the season feeling good, you've got real playoff hopes, and then it all just falls apart. A complete, soul-crushing 7-game losing streak to end it all. Well, that's exactly what the Colts are dealing with, and now every single move they make this offseason could literally define the franchise for years to come. Look, to really get the pressure cooker the Colts are in right now, you have to understand this collapse. A 7-game slide to end your season? That's not just a bad stretch of football. That's a full-blown crisis of confidence. It ripples through the entire organization, players, coaches, the front office, you name it. It shined a massive spotlight on some deep, fundamental cracks in the roster. And let's be honest, it put general manager Chris Ballard on the hottest of hot seats. Every move we're about to talk about is being watched under a microscope because of how badly 2025 ended.
All right, so here's our game plan for breaking down this massive offseason. First, we're going to revisit that painful season-ending collapse because you have to understand the why behind all this urgency. Then, we'll look at how they locked down their offense before starting the real fireworks, tearing down and completely rebuilding a defense that just wasn't cutting it. We'll also cover the tough goodbyes, the fan favorites shun the door, and finally, we'll put all the pieces together to see what this new-look 2026 Colts team could actually look like.
Okay, Section 1. A season to forget. And trust me, that's not just me being dramatic. In the NFL, momentum and mentality, they're everything. A collapse of this magnitude can have a real hangover effect that bleeds right into the next season. So this part isn't just about recapping some bad games. It's about understanding the psychological damage and the clear message from ownership, which was basically, fix this and make sure this never, ever happens again. You know, in a weird way, that brutal losing streak might have been the best thing for them. It brought a ton of clarity. It was like this harsh diagnostic test that pointed a giant flashing neon arrow at the team's #1 problem, the defense. The offense, yeah, it showed some real flashes, some potential. But the defense, week after week, it was the anchor just dragging the whole team down. So the mission for the offseason became crystal clear. Attack the defensive side of the ball and do it aggressively. No more patchwork fixes.
So now for Section 2. Securing the offense. Right before any team goes on a big shopping spree in free agency, they have to take care of their own house first. It's like the first rule of successful team building, you know? You identify your core guys, your difference makers, and you lock them down. For the Colts, this meant looking at the absolute heart of their offense and making 2 huge franchise-defining decisions about guys already on the team. And these decisions set the tone for everything else.
And this brings us to the 2 guys at the absolute center of the Colts' offensive world. On one side, you've got your starting quarterback, Daniel Jones, the leader, the guy with the ball in his hands, but also a massive question mark because of his health. And on the other side, you've got wide receiver Alec Pierce, a guy the source material for this explainer calls the NFL's single best deep threat. The whole future of the offense, and we're talking hundreds of millions in salary cap space, it all hangs on what they do with these 2 players. So, the way they handle Daniel Jones is just a masterclass in managing risk. A torn Achilles, that is one of the scariest injuries for a quarterback. It messes with your mobility, your ability to escape, even the power on your throws. It creates this huge cloud of uncertainty. So instead of just guessing what he's worth now, the Colts got clever. They used the transition tag. It's this brilliant tool that basically gives them the right of first refusal. It lets the other 31 teams in the league do their homework for them. The Colts can just sit back, see what another team is willing to pay Jones, and then decide, okay, we'll match that, or nope, good luck elsewhere. It's a calculated gamble to protect themselves. And here's where that gamble is predicted to land. Even with that major injury, the projection is that the Colts go all in. They're expected to match a big offer to bring Jones back, a 3-year deal that could be worth up to $130 million, with a staggering $80 million of that guaranteed. And for Alec Pierce, the market's going to be hot for him, landing him a massive 3-year, $85 million deal. This tells you one thing loud and clear. The Colts believe their path forward is through the air, and they're willing to write some huge checks to keep their 2 most important guys, and just accept the risk that comes with it.
All right, with the offense locked and loaded, we shift to Section 3, the defensive makeover. And folks, this is where the real fireworks go off. We're not talking about just plugging a couple of holes here. We are talking about a total philosophical teardown, tearing the old defense down to the studs and rebuilding it with a brand new identity, a new type of player, and a new vision under their new defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo. You know, a rebuild of this size, it always has to start with a bold and usually painful first move. You have to send a message to the locker room and to the whole league that the old way of doing things is officially over. And as this slide shows, the Colts are predicted to do that in a way that I don't think anyone saw coming, by trading a team captain, a locker room leader, the absolute heart and soul of their defense.
And that player is linebacker Zaire Franklin, who gets traded to the Green Bay Packers. Now, this wasn't just some guy. Franklin was a 7th-round pick, a total long shot who fought and clawed his way into a starting job and became the team's emotional leader and leading tackler. His goodbye message here? It's just a powerful reminder that behind all the cold business of the NFL, the cap space and contracts, these are real human beings with families leaving cities they've learned to love.
But if you're looking at it from the front office, there's a cold, strategic reason for that painful move. The trade wasn't just about getting rid of salary. It was about reallocating resources. It instantly freed up about $4 million in precious salary cap space. And that money? That becomes the fuel, the ammunition for the rest of this rebuild. It lets them target players who specifically fit the aggressive, versatile scheme their new coordinator wants to run, a scheme that values speed over the traditional, big, thumping linebackers of the past.
So what do they do with that newfound cash? Well, this slide shows you the fundamental choice every GM has to make. Do you go for the big fish, the proven superstar like Trey Hendrickson, and pay a massive price for him? Or do you stick to GM Chris Ballard's philosophy of getting younger and faster? The prediction is they're going to stick with what they know. They'll spread their bets across a couple of high-upside players instead of putting all their eggs in one very expensive veteran basket. It's definitely higher risk, but the potential reward is huge.
So let's meet the two players they're betting on. First up, K'Lavon Chaisson. This guy's a former first-round pick, he's just 26, hitting his prime, and he finally put it all together in 2025. Just exploding with career highs in sacks, he's your high-upside guy. Then there's Kingsley Enagbare, a totally different kind of player. He's known for his raw power, his brute strength. He's the guy you bring in on running downs to set a physical edge. And here's the key. For less than what it would cost to sign one Trey Hendrickson, they get two young, specialized players to start rebuilding that D-line.
But the shopping trip isn't over. They make two more critical signings. To help the secondary, they bring in veteran Kyle Duggar. He's a solid, reliable, and cheaper option to play that box safety role. That's basically a hybrid safety/linebacker who's great against the run. And to replace Zaire Franklin, they make maybe the biggest gamble of the entire offseason, linebacker Nakobe Dean. When this guy is healthy, he is an athletic freak with incredible speed. His 2024 season was elite. But the multi-million-dollar if is his long injury history. This is the definition of a boomer-bust signing.
Okay, on to Section 4, necessary departures. This is the other side of the coin, right? The tough part of the business. In a league with a hard salary cap, for every new face you bring in, somebody has to go out the door. It's a zero-sum game. This part of the rebuild is about the talented, established, often fan-favorite players that the Colts are predicted to just let walk away. And it really shows you the true cost of this new strategy. And here are the 3 major losses, all for basically the same reason. They're about to get a bigger paycheck on the open market than the Colts are willing to give them. Nick Cross, a young, promising safety, is off to Cincinnati. Kwity Paye, a productive edge rusher, heads to Detroit. But the biggest loss, by far, is right tackle Braden Smith. This guy has been a rock, one of the most reliable players at his position for years, and he's predicted to join the Cowboys. Losing a starting tackle of his caliber is a massive blow. It creates a brand new, serious hole they have to fill immediately to protect that huge investment they just made in Daniel Jones.
So after all the dust is settled, the huge contracts, the shocking trade, all the new faces, and the tough goodbyes, what are we actually left with? Well, it's time for our last section, Section 5, the new look Colts. Let's put all these puzzle pieces together, look at the final list of who's in and who's out, and see what the final product of this whole high-stakes offseason really looks like.
And this final list, it tells the whole story. You can see the entire philosophy laid out right here. You see that massive financial commitment to keep the offensive core of Jones and Pierce together, betting that firepower is the key. Then you see the exodus of proven, more expensive veterans like Franklin, Paye, and Smith, and in their place, a wave of younger, cheaper, high-potential players on defense. It's a crystal clear and very risky strategy. Keep your offense humming and bet big on youth and speed to transform your defense.
And that brings us to the ultimate question, the one this whole thing hinges on. Have the Colts actually done enough? I mean, they've pushed all their chips to the middle of the table on a high-risk, high-reward strategy. They're betting that the potential of guys like Chaisson and Dean will be better than the production of the guys they let go. They're praying that K'Lavon Chaisson's breakout season is the new normal, not a fluke. They're gambling that a guy like Nakobe Dean can finally stay healthy and reach that elite ceiling. So is this a championship blueprint?
Or is it a recipe for another year of what-ifs? That is the $100 million question. What do you all think of this plan? Let us know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, do us a huge favor and subscribe to NFL Nexus and hit that like button. Oh, and please help support the channel by checking out our coloring books. They're perfect for kids, grandkids, even for adults. You can find them through the link in the description. Thanks so much for watching.